Welcome. Welcome to our city council meeting. Appreciate everyone being here, and sorry to be slow, but I had some really important visitors today. Everybody's important, right? But we had some great Cub Scouts and some young ladies and another young man who were here and wanted to tour City Hall a little bit, so they got to see the city manager's office and his Eagle collection, and then they came in and spent a little time with the mayor, and they're still with us, and we're glad you're here, ladies and gentlemen, that you can stay here as long as you want and you can leave as soon as you want. And so we're going to ask for some of their help here in just a minute, but let's start with, as we should, I think, an invocation. We have Reverend Alex Wilkie with us today, and before we even start, it is Alex Wilkie's birthday today. I believe he's about 25. Is that right, Alex, Reverend? Maybe a little older.
Wouldn't
maybe.
it be great to be 25 again?
No, but really, I think we need to sing Happy Birthday right now. Here we go. Happy birthday to
you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Reverend. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. And if there's anybody else that's 88 today, they need to stand and we need to sing a happy birthday
I
to
agree.
them.
We got any other takers? Okay, it's your day. Reverend, thank you for being here and for offering an invocation today.
I'll drop that part out of my prayer then.
Okay.
Let us pray. O Lord, you prove that your witness is faithful and true. Help us to discover in your example the determination we need so that our witness in public and in secret will also be faithful and true. A clear word spoken and lived without compromise. May we all say congratulations for those who have successfully won their re-election for the seat that they hold in this council chambers this day. And this we pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. And the mayor is included in that
Thank you.
re-election bid.
Thank you. Mayor and a couple of council members. Yeah. Thank you, Reverend. Now we have some Cub Scouts, some Webelos with us today. I would like to ask Gavin Bowen to lead the Webelos up, and they will, by the way, they're from pack number 1948. They will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Gavin, will you bring your pack, or at least those that are here, forward? And if you just maybe have them face us up here, and the flag is right there, Gavin. Bring your leader with you, too.
Cute.
Look how nice and organized. There you go. Just come right up to the microphone. See it there, Gavin? These folks live out in the Little Valley area, Jimmy, out by Horseman Park, your neck of the woods. Okay. Gavin, tell us what we should do.
Will you all please stand? Now join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Now stay there for just a minute, and each of you take a turn and just tell us your names, okay? Gavin?
Gavin Bowen.
Very nice.
Sam Stouffer.
Nice to meet you. Who's next?
Max Brownstein.
Very good.
Maximus Dunleavy.
Johnny Cottom.
Awesome.
Kason Davis.
Good job, Kaysen.
Braxton Whitwer.
Braxton.
Kaden Adamson.
Caden. Very nice to meet you all. We won't make you recite any like oaths or anything, but thank you for being here, and you can go ahead and be seated now. Now I want these young ladies to come up. All right, young ladies, and the young man that's with you that came into my office, why don't you all come up and tell us your names too, okay? Thanks, young men, for being here. Thank you. Reverend? Oh, there you go. Okay, come up here and just tell us your name, okay? And tell us what you're doing here. What are you doing here? I don't know. They're not quite sure. Why are we here? Just here to tour City Hall? Is that what you're here for? Learn about government a little bit? Okay. Tell us your name.
My name's Jalen Carter. Carly Newland. Kaylee Newland. McKinley Stafford.
McKinley.
Emery Davidson.
Emily.
Wyatt Louder.
Wyatt.
Brooklyn Shirtliff.
Brooklyn.
Brandy Pechtel.
Very good.
Elena Christiansen. Kiara Boyd.
Kiara.
I'm Ashley Lamro.
And one more cute little one.
Avon.
Very nice to meet you. And I believe that you live close by Councilwoman Betty Ariel. Is that right?
Yeah, so Betty Ariel was in our ward.
Very good.
So she was in the primary, so we all miss her. She's moved. So we wanted to explain to the girls how we vote and how that applies in our lives.
We talked about that a little bit, didn't we?
Right.
Yep. It's a very important thing. And as we're going to learn shortly, we only had about 20% of those registered to vote in this recent election last Tuesday. We'd really like to have 100% or really close to that. So I hope that your generation does a better job than mine's doing. Right, everybody? Let's hope. Let's hope we figure that out a little bit better. And so we're glad you're here. Thank you for being here, and I think they're going to stay for a few minutes tonight.
You know, Mayor, there's just something so extra special to hear children's voices and to hear them say the Pledge of Allegiance in that fashion, and we appreciate their leaders so much for bringing them out. It's really special.
We sure do. Thank you, Ed. So now we have one other thing before we really start our written agenda. We have the Healthy Dixie Council here to present a recognition award. I'd like to have them come forward. Steve, are you going to lead us in that?
I would like the other members who are here in attendance today to stand.
Please.
Craig Shanklin,
Have them
Jordan
come up.
Merrill, Jane Lambert, Kai Norfeld.
Kai, the short guy.
Yeah. As you guys know, the Healthy Dixie Council is a collaborative effort of local government and volunteer efforts to promote the health and welfare within our community. And one of our objectives as a council is to promote community gardens. A couple years ago, we set aside $20,000 to be given as grants to community gardens to be started. And this individual today that we're going to recognize played a significant role in securing the grant and having the garden come forward. And so we'd like to invite up at this time Ray Shanklin. We also want to recognize his wife, and I believe Kay, and his daughter-in-law, Di.
We've seen you all somewhere before. Yeah.
I have
Got
put
pictures,
up
Steve?
some pictures here
Awesome.
of the tremendous work that Ray and his group has been able to accomplish over at Switch Point. A group of volunteers led by Ray Shanklin on behalf of Switch Point applied for the grant and was granted $7,500 in March 2016. Since then, the garden has grown considerably. Some might even consider and call it a small farm, and has helped teach gardening skills, generate considerable volumes of fruit and vegetables. It's been a tremendous success. While many were involved in the project, it takes a leader with passion and skills to make a vision a reality. Ray Shanklin was this person. Will you be Ray to hand that to. Ray is a retired electrical engineer and a senior corporate executive from Florida, a certified gardener in Florida, and he has taken through the Utah State Extension Service and become the Master Gardener's class here. In addition to his other volunteer activities, the Utah Food Bank, the Soup Kitchen, the Friends of the Snow Canyon State Park, Ray has made and established the community garden as his top priority. He was instrumental in designing, securing volunteers and bringing in plant materials. He also donated much out of his own pocket. And for all of this, Ray, we want to recognize you with the Healthy Dixie Council Award. It's one, we generally give out 3 or 4 of these awards annually. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very honored and very humbled to receive this. I'm afraid there's a lot more people involved in this garden than what I did. And I would like to mention a few people here, if I may. To start off with, the Washington County Water Conservancy has a program for teaching garden classes. And so when we first moved here from Miami, I started to attend these classes, and most of the people that I got involved were people that were actually presenting these courses. So that was how we got started. But Nan Hendrickson is the person that actually wrote the original grant, and so she should be recognized because she wrote the grant. And of course, Healthy Dixie, there would be no garden without Healthy Dixie, so that was wonderful. The one person that has been wonderful for our garden and should be very definitely recognized, and that's Rick Heffelbauer. And I don't know if you know Rick, but he is the horticultural extension service for Washington County. And Rick has really contributed a lot. Rick came out and did soil surveys for us, and he paid for these soil surveys out of his own pocket. And he visited the park many times, and he even brought people down from Utah State to look at the garden to make sure we didn't have diseases or so forth in the garden. So he was really there. And Rick Sullivan actually donated all of the plant material and seeds for our first year's garden, so we didn't have to use the grant money. Isn't St. George a wonderful place? I can't believe it. It's so easy, you know. You just mention something to somebody, and boy, they're on board. But Rick is the actual production manager out in Sandia Greenhouses. And then Ryan White, which we met at the Master Gardeners program, and Ryan did the drawings for the garden. And Bonnie Pendleton, who is known as the Plant Lady, did the original estimate for the grant. And the first year that the garden success has to be given to a local resident of Switch Point, Dennis. Dennis, as you know, was there all the time. He took care of the garden, and that was the reason they had so much produce the first year. The second year, we wanted to get started a little early because the first year we got started a little late. And so we got the plant materials, and our handy-dandy little planting team jumped in there and got stuff planted early this year. We did need to get some irrigation done because we didn't have a drip system in the in-ground part of the garden. And we were able to get the material donated. One thing I failed to mention too, in the drawing there was a grape orchard down through the middle that separated our in-ground garden from our box garden, and we couldn't find anybody that would build this grape orchard. So Carol Hallwell, who is actually the manager of Switch Point, and her husband built the grape orchard on the weekends on their own time. Then we were looking for some irrigation for our in-ground garden, and of course, now that we had a grape orchard, we had to plant grapes, and we need some irrigation for that. And so I was able to talk to John Sorensen from Turf Irrigation, who was presenting a class at one of these courses that we took. And John, I told him what he was doing and what we were doing, and asked him if he knew of any landscaper that would be able to help us out there. And he said, well, I'll see if any of my customers could do that, but I'll donate all of the material for this irrigation project. My pump went out on my house, on my water feature, and I called Sun River. I live out in Sun River, and I called Sun River and asked them for a recommendation. And their recommendation was a gentleman by the name of Justin Lowe, and he does work out at Sun River. So Justin came out and gave me an estimate for replacing my pump, and I told Justin what we had going out at Switch Point, and Justin says, my crew will install it for you. So we had everything donated, so it was just wonderful, and I just can't believe how great St. George is.
Ray, thank you very much. So, Ray, tell me how long you and Kay have lived in St. George.
2.5 years.
You see what happens when people move to our community and they just jump in, and they can make such a difference in a very short amount of time. It really is incredible. I've been there recently, and it really is. It's, what did you call it, Steve? It's like
Small farm.
a small farm, yeah. It's incredible, and of course to a great cause. So thank you so much, Ray. Just appreciate what you've done, and we'll probably continue to do.
Well, thank you. One other thing is, now they were very fortunate. Dr. Bowman has taken over the garden, and Dr. Bowman is a professor of agriculture and has traveled all over the world helping people solve agriculture problems. So they really have somebody out there now. And of course, the first year, well, all the time, Jane, who is our master gardener here, she was out there giving advice all the time also.
Well, thank you so much. Let's give him another round of applause.
Yes, let's get.
I don't want to ruin the picture, but we got to do that. Thank you. And thanks to the Healthy Dixie Council. Great work. Thanks, Steve.
At some point before next spring, I'm going to have to talk to you all about tomatoes, because I'm having a hard time raising a decent tomato anymore. I mean, we used to be able to raise tomatoes. I thought when I was a kid, I loved those tomatoes. I can't eat a tomato out of the store. Yeah.
Everything
I
grows
think I
better
might
down
pass.
there. Yeah.
You know, Jimmy, you're awful lucky tonight. Not only you have them, but you also got the Reverend Wilkie. He can raise tomatoes, that guy, too.
Awesome. I had some great-looking plants,
We did too.
but I had no tomatoes.
No tomatoes.
And the ones that did, it just didn't. They didn't work. So.
That was us this year. Seems
Yeah.
like it sometimes goes that way. Well, great things. Let's see. I think anything else pre-agenda? I don't think so. Then, Gary, any changes to the agenda?
No, Mayor, we just have one addendum. We'd have
Right.
to take care of it when we get to that point.
Okay, well then let's, I think we ought to be able to just go through it then.
All right, I think the first item is the some bid openings. I guess it depends on what you want to do at the public hearings, Mayor. Wait, go through a few of these items.
Let's do bid openings, and then maybe we could do the first few staff report items. So there were a couple people that were here and might have some time issues.
All righty. First item is, as you're aware in the current budget, we have budgeted for a revenue control system for our airport. We have the existing one that was put in when we built the airport, it's no longer supported by the company that put it in. They've gone out and the whole system's changed, so we've had to program a new one. And so our recommendation is that we would award that contract to Ski Data Group for the control system there. $238,993. Might recall in the budget process, I think we had $250,000 programmed, and we generate, I believe, around 500,000. How much? 500,000, 300,000 a year. So we need that in order to keep that revenue coming.
Questions, council? We're aware of this. We've talked about it previously. Anything else, Brett? That
No, nothing to add.
okay.
I'll
Rick?
make a motion to award the contract to Ski Data Group for the airport parking revenue control system in the amount of $283,993.
No,
238,993.
Second.
Dyslexic.
Okay, we have a motion by Michelle with a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is bid opening is for some regulators for our substations, 3 of them. This is a sole source. Eaton is the only manufacturer that matches our existing system, and so we would recommend award of those bid at $101,961.15.
Questions on this, council? Ready for a motion?
I'll go ahead, Mayor, and make a motion to approve the purchase of the 3 voltage regulators from Eaton Power Systems for $101,961.15.
Motion by Jimmy with the second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the next item would be the staff reports.
Yes.
Number 1, everybody's obviously aware that recent election, under state law, we have to conduct a canvass of that election, make any changes to that election, the votes that were counted, and you should have in front of you today the final totals for that. So we'll present, let the county who's conducted that election for us make those final.
Well,
Thank you.
This is another couple of years have gone by.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
I know, it just seems like yesterday. But we're here, of course, to canvass your 2017 general municipal election. And I have in front of you, of course, you have a few packets and things like that. So you have the unofficial election night results, and then, of course, the official results along with the detail by precinct data, which does come in handy sometimes as you go through. But as the mayor said before, in Washington, in St. George City, there's 39,144 registered voters as of election day. And as of election night, there were 7,844 of those registered voters who either voted early or we counted their absentee. And so we were hoping we'd get a few more people out to the polls. And if you take a look at your little cheat sheet that I have in front of you, after election night totals, we were able to add in 76 provisional ballots. You had 84 total, but 8 of them we were unable to count because those voters were not registered anywhere in the state of Utah prior to them coming into a polling location. So unfortunately, we weren't able to count them. And then we were able to add in an additional 134 absentee ballots that were either dropped off at our ballot drop box or, of course, in the mail on election day, or successive with an eligible postmark of the 6th of November. So that's not too bad. We were able to add in a total of 210 additional votes. So this is how it breaks down. So early voting, you had 488 residents take advantage of that. On polling location is on Election Day. There were 3,740 voters who took advantage of Election Day voting. And then interestingly enough, the absentee votes were 3,750. So
Almost the
actually, you
same.
had more people who voted an absentee ballot than actually voted in person on Election Day. Kind of an interesting stat. And then, of course, our 76 provisional ballots. So, for the canvas total that I will present, was there were 8,054 registered voters who actually voted in the St. George City election for a 20.60% turnout. And these are the results. For mayor, John Pike, 5,746 votes for a total of 72.01%. Lane Ronau for 2,233 votes for a 27.99% turnout. Michelle Randall was the top vote getter for council, 4,929 votes for a 33.66% turnout, with Joe Bocut next with 3,924 votes for 26.80% turnout. Then Greg MacArthur with 2,971 votes for a 20.29% turnout, and Greg Aldred with 2,820 votes for a 19.26% turnout. So,
Questions,
Yeah.
council? It's still, I haven't looked back, but as I recall, the turnout is fairly similar to what we
very
see.
similar. The last time Mayor ran 4 years ago, the percentage was a little bit higher. It was just a little over 25% turnout.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit less.
Would be interesting. Do we know, Christina, how many absentee ballots we sent out?
Close to 7,000, yeah.
So interesting, huh?
Yeah.
So if you look at just those, about, somewhere close to 50% of those
Exactly.
voted.
Yeah,
Interesting things to think about.
it is a little
For the
interesting to
future.
think about in the future.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we appreciate the county's efforts on this, and I know it's a lot of work for you and for Christina, who does a ton of work on this.
she does a lot of work.
And
so,
she, I believe, takes great pride in it,
yes,
as I'm sure you do.
that's a wonderful.
And it is a lot of work organizing the poll workers and the locations and the signs and the ballots, and when something's not printed correctly, you have to do it again. And that was the other. Was that the general or the primary? So it's very important. We want to do everything right, and I believe we have. And even though we'd like to see many more people voting, and we'll work on that in different ways, but
Yeah, we'll get together. I think
Yep.
we've got some ideas that I think we should discuss as the county and as the cities go forward, because we will be in the process of purchasing new voting equipment over the next few years, and we don't have a set date as of yet. But that would be a good time if we were going to make any changes to be able to coordinate with each other and see what works best.
sounds good.
Mayor, while I know that it would be nice, as you said, pointed out, would like to have 100% turnout, but I want you to know that you have to read this, that people would be turning out in greater numbers if they were unhappy or had some concerns with the way the city's going, the way you three have been conducting your representation for the St. George voters. So I think that's also put a positive spin on it, that if that's good too.
We hope so, and we hope that the alternative is not true, which is that they don't feel what they say makes a difference, and I hope that's not true. We try, and I believe this council all tries, and the city staff and management tries to listen and to respond, and so we would certainly make that plea to engage, and we're trying to do the same. And so, but it is very important. City and county government, it's really the most intimate, if you will, with the citizens. So close every day, they're dealing with the things that we are to provide.
And we get many calls over the course of the election cycle, and we reiterate to all of the voters who reach out to us and let them know that this is where they can really make the difference, is they can make an appointment and talk to one of you.
Yeah,
But you can't. It gets a lot harder as you go harder up.
that's right.
So, I mean, this is where they get to make the difference. So,
Well, thank you very much. And I believe we need, do we need a motion to actually, do
Mayor,
we say certify the election results? Okay.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve and accept and certify the municipal elections for 2017.
second.
We have a motion by Ed and a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Let's see, I don't believe it needs to be, it's not a resolution, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again. Please express our thanks also to all those that worked with you and Kim and others. Thank you.
Maybe we could just take a couple more, Mayor.
Yes.
There's some time concerns there. Item B is a donation agreement for an art sculpture titled Dutch Oven Cowboy. I'm not sure if there's somebody here to present that, or I guess not, so I guess we just be accepting that donation, which I think it's a wonderful sculpture, and somebody's purchased it and then donating it to the city.
Motion to approve the donation of the Dutch Oven Cowboy.
Second.
We have a motion by Michelle with a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion, Betty?
I just wanted to say that Jason Creethar is a new member of our community. He's come from San Francisco. He was a professional ballet dancer, I guess is how you say it, with the San Francisco Ballet. And he has jumped right into the community and was the co-chair of the gala that was held for the Southwest Symphony, a very successful event.
It was.
Not too long ago. And his desire is just to help and be a part of things, and he purchased that for us. So.
Thank you. It was very nice of him to do that, and he does. He wants to contribute, doesn't he? It's great to have him here.
Do we know where that's going?
It's already installed at the Pioneer Courthouse.
Right out front. It's a smaller piece,
Small,
but it is wonderful. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is a donation agreement with C. Blake Homes. I'm sure you remember we did this once before out there, but these are for the detention basins that help with the runoff so we can keep them out of the streets and out of the rivers. It's kind of a mandate from the state. Our position has been that if we control it, then we can make sure it meets the standards rather than having the developer that may leave after they develop the project, and then we be stuck with the problems of fines or whatever it may be if it's not handled correctly. And so we'd recommend that we accept this donation for that property.
Any questions on this? We have had a few of these. I'd entertain a motion then.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve a donation agreement with C. Blake Homes Incorporated, including a purchase and sales agreement for property located in the vicinity of the Whisper Ridge subdivision.
Second.
Motion by Betty with the second by Ed. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the next item is the recommendation from the committee that was made up to consider proposals on Tech Ridge, development of the city-owned property at the old airport site. You know, it's been almost a year, believe it or not, that we've been working on trying to figure out what to do at that site with regard to the kind of development that we would like to see up there. So you authorized and we conducted a market study by a company out of Newport, California, who completed their study. We reviewed the study and made it available to the folks that might want to, we asked for requests for qualifications or requests for proposals, RFPs. We published it, put it out in the paper. We sent it out to the real estate groups. And included in that was our vision for the site. And our vision was to expand and promote technology, to create higher paying jobs as soon as we could, facilitate a world-class health care and research area, promote the city, increase the quality of life, and support higher learning. Those were the vision that we put into the RFPs, and we circulated that, put it on our website, asked for proposals. We, I think, had 3 weeks or 4 weeks that we put it out there. We received 2 proposals. One from the Gardner Group, I believe, and one from Tech Ridge LLC, local group. We held a meeting with the committee, reviewed the proposals. We've looked at the proposals in detail. They were excellent groups. Both of them could do this job just really well, I believe. But the recommendation, unanimous recommendation from the committee is to select Tech Ridge LLC with Isaac Barlow as the managing partner of that group to go to the next stage. And that next stage would be coming up with a development agreement that would be brought back to you to vote on and consider approval of to go forward with that development of Tech Ridge. So, you know, it like I say, it was a difficult decision, but we felt like that the Tech Ridge folks addressed each one of the visions that we had in our RFQs and made a very successful presentation. In fact, I'll just say that in the 40 years I've been here, I've never seen anything like that presentation that they put together regarding the vision for that particular site, and that would be the recommendation. That committee was made up of Jimmy and the mayor and Matt Liu and myself. And Michelle was going to be on that, but she was ill and could not attend that at that time. So that's the recommendation from from that committee.
Council, again, as Gary indicated, this was the recommendation. It's the council's prerogative now to approve that committee selection of the developer for Tech Ridge. As Gary indicated, also there's still one big piece left, and that is a development agreement. At which time, and we hope that can happen relatively quickly, but that would be when all the details could be further, really presented and discussed. Would be kind of my suggestion, I think the city manager's suggestion. But any questions or comments that you have at this time, and then we'd be ready for a motion to make that approval if you're so inclined.
Mayor, I'd just like to emphasize that point that you made as far as once the proposal is made, it comes back, and so that the public will get all of this information in detail so that they'll be very transparent and clear exactly what's taking place, and they'll have some input.
That's exactly right.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we accept this recommendation from the committee to have the Tech Ridge LLC be the developer of our Tech Ridge project.
Second.
Motion by Betty with the second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. We thank you, all those who were involved with both groups. It was a very good process, I feel like, with a lot of good information and good ideas. So we're excited about what this will mean for the future of St. George. We'll start tomorrow.
All right, thank you. Mayor, then maybe we could go back to the public hearings that were scheduled to start at 5:30
Yes.
if you like.
First public hearing, 3A, public hearing to consider amending the general plan from MDR to HDR on approximately 12.28 acres, MHDR on approximately 14.27 acres, and PK Park on approximately 2 acres located on the southwest intersection of Mall Drive and 2780 East. So this is a general plan amendment. We're looking at the proposed land use. So this is the property. Lynn's is located here, Mall Drive, 3000 East. And so this is the piece of property between the Lynn's Commercial Center and the Virgin River. So this is the current zoning on the property is A20. There's planned development commercial located to the east. There's R110 located to the south. So the current general plan is MDR, which is medium density residential. In Little Valley, generally we have been transitioning from more high intense land use designations to less intense. And so you can see in this instance we have commercial, we have medium density residential, and then we have low density residential. Also, close is a land use designation of PK, which is park. The city's been working with the property owner to the south and also the applicant to have a 4-acre park. Each one of the developments would set aside 2 acres, and so that park would be located on both of their properties located here, and that's also reflected in this general plan amendment. So here's the original proposal from the applicant. Parcel A was high density residential, which is 16 to 22 units an acre, and that was on 14 acres. And HDR can accommodate planned developments, R4, and sometimes R3 can also be accommodated within the HDR. On this size of property, you could accommodate between 214 and 314 units. On the lower section, they're proposing medium high density residential, which is 9 to 14 units an acre, or 10 to 14 units an acre on approximately 12 acres. And MHDR can accommodate R3 PD. And on that particular amount of acreage, you could accommodate about 336 to 498 units. The Planning Commission, they took public hearing and they discussed this particular proposal. They also listened to the applicant, and they actually gave a recommendation for an alternative. And this is the alternative proposal that the Planning Commission recommended. I've spoke to the applicant since that meeting, and they also agreed to this this revision. What they proposed is that the high density residential was originally 14 acres. They proposed to increase it to 21 acres and leave the medium density residential, which then would act as the transition between the high density residential and the low density residential in regards to the land use designation. That would roughly keep them a similar number of units as they would if they did the HDR and the MHDR. It would just provide that MDR located. And so this was the Planning Commission's recommendation. The units are actually real similar. On the HDR, you're roughly 336 to 462. And so the units were roughly the same. And Planning Commission recommends approval of this revision. And I believe the applicant is also agreeable to this.
I'm
and
curious.
that concludes staff's presentation.
I'm curious, what was the catalyst for that recommendation?
The concern was down on the south was R110, low density residential. And they were concerned with the MHDR being too high of a land use designation next to the R110. And so they felt the MDR was a better transition with less dense next to the R110. So I think the compromise was to increase the MDR to give them still a decent number of units.
And leave the buffer zone with the
That's
medium
correct.
density, and do away with the medium high density altogether.
Correct.
Any other questions? That was a good one, Jimmy. Seems like a lot of density in that area.
But
It
it
is.
was a good compromise, Mayor.
For, And for context, Greyhawk is a high-density subdivision or high-density apartment complex that was approved. They're roughly 11 to 12 acres, just for context on how much this is. So this is 22.
This would be enough for 2 Greyhawks.
Yes.
See how I did that math?
Yeah, that's good.
That's Dixie High math.
Right there, man.
Right there.
Oh, that's Bundyville
Before
math.
anybody
Was
even
that
fell
Bundy
asleep.
math?
Bundyville
Dixie High
math.
math too.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Okay, I will open the public hearing at this time for anyone who may have come to address this issue. Seeing none, I'll come back, and if the applicant would like to say anything, we'll invite them forward.
The name is Tim Stewart. We certainly did not intend to end up with 21 acres of high density. We don't plan on doing 2 Greyhawks. Our intention. Oh, sorry. How did I do that? There we go. We would probably be. We're planning on using about half that for an apartment community, and then the remainder of it we would do townhomes, and then down into the. Gosh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a touch screen.
Hey, you're,
Sorry.
you're
Don't
doing
touch
well.
anything. Right?
You're fine.
But just to be
Sorry,
clear
John.
on the orientation,
Yeah.
that medium density is to the east boundary of the property, right?
Yeah.
It's different the way it sits on the map.
This is kind of current, you can kind of see.
Yeah. So this would
South,
be
south. Excuse me, south. That's what I meant to say.
right.
I was
right.
thinking east,
Hey,
but I meant
Sean.
south.
Yeah. We felt that the application made sense because of the amount of entry-level housing that's still needed in our town. It's a piece of property that is not impacting as far as a lot of neighbors. The traffic that will be added is close to the road, out to the bridge, up to Mall Drive, and so that's the reason that we decided to put this through.
We're still talking about, amending the general plan here, so it's not zoning yet. But any other questions for the applicant, council? I do think as we're close to a lot of commercial there, one of the things I would hope to see in the future, whatever the council decides tonight, is as much focus on walkable, communities and
Absolutely.
connection to the commercial as possible.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about, if this is approved, that's a lot of people and a lot of homes in a close proximity,
Sure.
On the one hand, good, because it's close to some of that commercial, and that there's a
Right.
plan, for that. So, and bus service and medical services and so forth. But
Yeah.
anyway, I would hope that, and again, coming down the road, we may see some more specifics on that. But.
Well, for the record, my name's on the applicant, but this is actually a Sun River agreement between Suburban Land Reserve. So and we'll be coming back through with a PUD application, which also we have to submit to the church as well, because they have so much more property. They want to see us do it right, and we want to do it right. They want to make sure that their property continues to maintain a good value in that area. So
One of the things I'd really be interested in, just personally, maybe getting off into weeds, but we've approved several different things recently in terms of traditional neighborhood zoning and may talk about it more later, but housing being closer together, to try to have some different housing options for people.
yeah,
And I would hope
absolutely.
some of those things could be considered in this size of a development. So
Absolutely, yeah. That's
Mayor, you're absolutely right. It'll be coming back with greater detail, but they should have some connections to our trail system, which is adjacent to get to your point of pedestrian access and to feed into the commercial and so forth. So we expect to see that.
absolutely. And I don't know if you're aware, but the Parks Department does have a trail planned
yeah.
right along the river there, so
Right.
you're probably aware of that.
Gary, any comments?
No, I was just going to mention that. We've been working with both property owners for a park site there. That's next to the Seg Miller Pond that's there, and the goal being that we would extend that trail from the all the way from the River Road, and then as we incrementally build that along the river, so, and eventually getting to Mall Drive Bridge, and then connecting with the trail that goes that way up towards Washington. So it's in our master plan, and that park will be is on our projected program to build it in a few years when the people are there. So,
And I've met with Ed Burgess. He owns the property to the south, as you know, and we've met to discuss coordinating that 4-acre park, to make sure we plan that together, and so he's all on board with that.
Very good. Gary, any other concerns from staff as far as you're aware?
Nope.
Okay. Council, if there's any further discussion or questions, let's have it. Otherwise, I'd be ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'd make the motion to amend the general plan from residential to HDR, high-density residential on approximately 12.28 acres. The MHDR, medium high-density residential, for folks who need to know what those initials mean. They'll be on approximately the 14.27 acres of the park, and approximately 2 acres located in the southwest section of Mall Drive and 2780 East Street.
I think there might be a mistake on the acreage.
Yeah, what is
Because of the shift, it was 21.
You switched it.
Yeah, so it's recommending for planning commission. The planning commission recommended the approximately 21 acres to HDR and the 2 acres to PK. So it depends on
Remember that
your,
change?
what your.
With that
You okay?
extension amount to the 21.1.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Okay, so we have a motion by Ed. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Joe, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Now,
Okay.
just a note on this, or a little caution. This is a good place for it. We know we have to have this type of housing. It helps with our housing affordability. We have a good mix. I think we've been doing a pretty good job of having a good mix. I just want to make sure we remember as we move forward and get out further into this undeveloped area that we remember we don't have to keep doing high density and approve every 8,000 square foot lot subdivision that comes along. We just need to make sure we're aware of that so we don't, I mean, the density is what it is here. It's a good place for it. I think it works. But we do have to be concerned with how many people we put where in the traffic. We only have so many roads around the hill and across the river. So if we want to maintain any kind of quality of life with traffic, which is already bad to some and worse to others, that we got to keep that in mind as we move out.
Jimmy, I couldn't agree more.
Well, Mayor, as we do that and take those measurements that Mr. Hughes has indicated, we're also taking care to consider that affordable housing and pricing for those who are seeking that type of home has to be considered as well.
It's a balancing act for sure.
It is.
So just need to be cautious. All right, Gary.
Next public hearing is consider vacate a portion of the utilities and drainage easement. It's my understanding that the sewer line that we're talking about went across in a location, moved it out to the street.
Right.
And so really the only effect is that we need to vacate the easement that was there where the sewer was at because it's been moved.
Right. There's sewer and there was drainage that came
Right.
down that way and then followed that ditch. So you're vacating that so they can realign it and put it in.
But we're handling the utilities, the drainage as well as the sewer in another location. So it's made this so that it's not necessary needed. And JUC reviewed it and recommended approval of it as well.
So we at the part we're vacating doesn't have any infrastructure in it. Doesn't have any.
No, the part you're vacating does.
Has
It has
sewer.
a sewer main. It's a 24-inch line, and then it has
But we're
drainage.
moving that out to the street.
So when Moreland develops, they'll put it all in their street, and I think they're working on it or have it pretty close to being done. So yeah, it'll all be in the street is where it'll go.
Any other questions? Okay, then I'll open the public hearing at this time for anyone who may have come to express input on this item 3B on our agenda. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action. That was fast, I know.
Yeah. Motion to approve the vacation of the drainage easement at 2780 East and 1140 South.
Second.
And sewer.
And a portion of the sewer.
Yeah, that too. Both. As described.
Okay, so a motion by Jimmy. Who was the second?
How was that, Christine?
Betty was.
Betty, were you the second?
Yes.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the next public hearing would be to consider some amendments to the existing current budget. You should have in your packet or else in front of you on the dais the recommendations regarding those. A couple of these are finishing up projects that did not get completed during the last fiscal year, like the first item was the dispatch center. We got a state grant to upgrade that system, and we didn't get it completed in the budget, in last budget year, so we're carrying those funds over. Now we're recognizing that project. That's the first item. Second item is a federal grant. This is the PFC and the AIP grant at the airport. This is the yeah, I don't know if there are any more details on that, and we can give them to you. The other one is the airport improvements. This is the one we discussed with the council on the runway, where the city went in and fixed that, ground off some of the portion of the runway. You can see that that's $255,000. It's coming from transfers from other funds and some of the airport bond fund. Police department. This is for replacement of a police vehicle that was totaled in an accident. Insurance companies reimbursing us there.
That was the, not the city employee.
No, this is another one. We'll have to come back on that one later. The number 5 is just an allocation. We had some improvements at the fuel dispenser for our fleet facility. This is to allocate some of those costs to various departments. You can see how we've allocated that cost outside of the general fund too. Some overtime for the police department. You can see that small amount. The Bluff Street widening betterments that we discussed in a previous meeting. This is recognizing that project and the funds coming from the capital project fund to make up the difference. Halfway wash trail connection at Sunset. It's a carryover from the previous budget. We had to get a permit, and it took us a while to get that permit. Helga Segmiller steel building. This is also a carryover from last year. The issuance refunding bonds for our airport. It's nice to show that we received $918,000 that we saved by refunding these bonds, and that was a successful refunding program. That just shows you the costs and the issuance costs and where the money's come from. Energy services, this is for the project we approved along Bluff Street to relocate the electrical service. It's along Bluff Street, and the state's paying for that. That's it. Of course, this is only the first one of the year, so it's not too many.
Any questions on that? That's a very helpful list. Nice to have the detail, Gary. Thank you.
Well, you know who does the detail.
Yes. She's right back there.
Mayor, I'd like to move that
You
we...
have to have a public hearing, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I'll
That's
open
right.
the public hearing for any who may have come to express input on this item. I don't suppose there will be much.
I took a survey and I couldn't see anyone.
Yeah. D, anything? You got any? Okay. Then we'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council. Any
Mayor,
questions, Ed?
I just want to comment on that 25,000 that we got back from the airport. That's because FAA denied the grant, so we just put that back in the coffers, basically, what we held out for it. And make a point of how important that refunding bond is that takes place, that we're able to do that. I think citizens should be aware of that fact, that the city employees that are responsible for that accounting process, and Mr. Esplin, that when we do redo those bonds and get that amount of money back, that's only a small portion, but it's very important to the financial status of the city.
Thank you, Ed. Any other questions? Otherwise, Betty, did you have something?
I would like to move. Sorry for that.
No, you're good.
Jumping the gun. Move to approve a resolution amending the fiscal year 2017 to 2018 budget.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion?
Just a huge thanks to Deanna Berklasich for her excellent work.
Very good. So all in favor then, starting with Jimmy, say aye.
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 Excellent job. Motion carries. I have to do it once in a while.
That means we have to stay awake.
Okay, it's all right.
And we have like 3 items that we need to bring up with regard to the Energy Services Department. Lori, get up here front and center so you can explain these if I don't get them done correctly. The first would be a resolution to approve a new exhibit for UAMPS, and it's a 138 kV line. I want Lori to kind of explain what we're doing over at Purgatory Flats. It's UAMPS, it's a joint project. We're part of that project, and what this approval would do.
So Pacific Corp is our transmission provider, and they're actually building a new substation at Purgatory Flats, which will serve an extra 60 megawatts to Hurricane and Washington cities. We are a part of 138 group that belongs to UAMPS that owns that whole project. So as a new facility is added to our group, we put it on an Exhibit C to our transmission contract, and that just gives us all the billing rights for all of us for the different projects that we're doing. And the 2 new items are the Purgatory, which is just a very small amount of money for us, for St. George, more for Hurricane and Washington, and then also a 4th 138 line from Central to St. George. Those 2 things will be added to that Exhibit C.
Now, that substation up by Central is the primary transmission carrier for us, and
Yes.
so that would be another line that would bring us some redundancy and some additional capacity in that. UAMPS is the organization that's kind of put it together because there's several cities involved, us, Santa Clara, Washington, Hurricane. So
Yeah.
we're the predominant percentage-wise of that line and that program. So
And it serves, the Dixie. load
Dixie
also.
Power as well.
Mhm.
Very good. Any questions? We're so glad to have Lori, who takes charge of all this stuff, this complex and so important thing. And I want you to know, as I took a poll from the Weeblos today and the young ladies, they all would like their light switches to work every time. And because I told them that's, we're responsible to do things like that. And there was, likewise with water, they would like their water to turn on every time. So we'll pass the word on to Scott.
Yeah, so I'll make sure he knows that.
And more than anything, they want the toilets to flush every time. So that was gross, they said. But anyway, we really do appreciate it, Lori. Thank you for your incredible work. Okay, I'm ready for a motion if you're so inclined, Council.
Motion to approve the resolution.
You're right.
Yeah, motion to approve the resolution for the amendment of Exhibit C to the UAMPS Central St. George 138 kV transmission project.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Betty. Discussion on the motion or anything we need to do differently there?
Do you need to add something? No? Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, starting with Joe, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Then if we could go to item 6E, this is the recommendation from staff to approve a contract extension with Western Area Power, WAPA, for firm power through September 30th to 2057. I guess Joe and I will be the only ones that will still be here then. But what this is, when a long time ago, the majority of the power that the city used was through the hydroelectric power project at Glen Canyon, or whatever they call it over there, whatever name by Lake Powell, that the generation of that power was allocated to various communities through the Western Area Power Association, and the rates that are paid for that power are really low. And so that contract comes up it ends in a few years. I guess it's, when is it? 24. And so as we're doing the long-range planning or whatever, they came to us, and Lori's been very involved with the Colorado River Water User Association and WAPA, and they've offered to extend that at what we consider an unbelievable project and cost for firm power, clear till 2057. And so they would like us to approve it officially in a meeting, the contract for that. So that's a great deal.
Yes.
So, Gary, how does that lock us into a set rate for that far out?
Yep, and I think it has. It
Extended
may
that
have.
far out?
Why don't you tell them the details of them? What we're paying for this power will blow you away.
So the first contract was signed in '64, and it went for 30 years, and then it was renewed again for 30 years, and this is 40 years. And what it does is it establishes the cost of the power according to operational cost of the Glen Canyon Dam. That's the reason the industry's changing, and we thought it was prudent for us to get ahead of it and get the contract changed completed three years ahead of time, so we could keep all this original foundation for that original contract there for us to sign for this.
So what's the
It's
current
very, very
charge?
cheap.
What's the current charge right now?
It's about $27 a megawatt hour.
Cheap.
Put that in kilowatts.
Yeah, so this
It's
helps
about
protect our
two
Two
and a half
cents. 2.5
cents.
cents.
This protects our citizens from all of a sudden having a big, huge
It
rate
does.
increase.
It's clean
and
hydropower.
I think
We
that's
love
the
it.
key thing
That's the
too,
key.
is to look at the sources of power that we have and the diversification that we have. We have this hydropower, we have some other hydro small portions, but then we've got solar, and we'll be coming back to you with a recommendation soon in buying a major block of solar that is going to be transmitted, I guess, by that line we just talked about earlier in our general area here, and if that's what the recommendation comes back. But and that cost, along with this cost, really balances our portfolio, and we're getting away from coal, even though we have a contract until 2024 or 2023 with Deseret Generation for some coal-fired. But we're looking at diversifying, and I think that with the gas that we have, and and you'll talk about that in a second, and the sun and the water, then we're probably pretty well diversified, more than probably anything around. So I think that's been good.
I'm like an environmentalist. Clean energy.
You can't beat that.
The only thing is, I'm a little concerned this is a catch-22, Gary. Once the pipeline goes in and we drain Lake Powell, we'll no longer have cheap power.
No, but when we drain it, we're going to buy the power from the line for a little while, and then we'll still get some power.
Okay, good.
And I figured the mayor and I will only be 91 when this contract ends.
What's your point?
We might be grumpy, but we'll still be alive.
Oh, I'll
I
be
said
like a
that.
spring chicken still.
Oh.
Well, that just made me.
If you guys live that long, I'll be out of business.
Well, Mayor,
That's a
it's
good
I'm
really
going to Spilsbury anyway.
it's really good that Lori's paying real attention to this and representing the interests of the citizens of St. George, and that's what's meaningful about this. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Are we ready for a motion? This is 6E.
Motion to approve the continuation of the contract with WAPA for the electric services
Second.
Through September 30th of 2057.
2057. That's just weird.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion by Jimmy with a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Probably the same feeling they had 40 years ago when they approved this originally.
Exactly. It'll come before you know it.
Yeah.
Should we go to J?
Yeah, if we can go to J. This is a recommendation from Lori as well, and looking at our long-range plans. As I mentioned earlier, our contract with Deseret Generation runs out in 2023, but there's about a 6-month gap there that if we take it from that calendar year to our budget year, that at this point we don't have anything to fill it. Now we may be coming back with some other stuff to fill it, and Lori's working on a 10-year plan to bring to you soon to show you what the models show and how we're going to meet the demands of the growth and get our power down the road as contracts expire. But there's an opportunity to buy gas right now for an unbelievable lowest price it's ever been, and we can buy that guaranteed at that price for 2023 for 6 months. The plan would be to take this gas, run our gas generators during that 6-month period, and and really make a difference in our rate as far as the cost of that power. And I can't remember. You'll have to tell us, Lori, the amount of per kill or whatever it is you buy it in, the decatherm or whatever.
So the BP is got the ability to go out 10 years and give us pricing on physical gas. So that's gas that we'll actually purchase during the month that we use it. So we won't pay for this until the beginning of 24, but it'll give us energy again at about $27 a megawatt hour. And when we can guarantee that in that time frame, that's a pretty huge thing to pass up. And so it'll have us run one unit, either one of the units, 24 hours a day for that winter period, in the winter period where we don't normally run the units because we use the units for peaking power. This will be our base load, and it's an opportunity I feel like that we shouldn't pass up. Now the pricing will have to be refreshed to me as soon as I get your approval, and we'll be doing that tomorrow, but I would like for you to give me the permission to accept it for less than 5 cents less than what they're offering it for, and I don't know, should I be saying that price now, or?
I'm not sure. I think that if we can be within, if you can give us the authority to be around the numbers she's talking about without having to bring it back would be good. I don't know if the attorney will allow that, but we don't have it right now because we got to negotiate that once you have approval. They won't negotiate that until they have the approval. So that's the.
If it was outside of that range, then you would have to bring it back.
I feel like the price we already got was so low, and it's actually for about, the cost of the gas is about $700,000 a month, which is about what we pay to run the units during the summer. So it's not an unusual purchase. And the decatherm price is so low that I told Gary today that I thought if you gave me a ceiling of 5 cents over that amount, and then we wouldn't agree with it if it was over that 5 cents. So I don't know what else to say. I hate to tell you the price on publicly with the bidding.
Oh, that's okay.
So Lori, tell me and the public, BP stands for
British
Petroleum.
British
We
Petroleum.
already buy gas.
Yes, we do.
From them.
We have for 10 years. Them, and there's a couple other companies that we buy from. They just are the only ones that have the credit worthiness to go out and guarantee pricing at 10 years.
And even bringing it in from BP, it doesn't take up our capacity in the line. We're not giving up the capacity in the line. If we want to run and buy more gas, we could. It's not taking up the entire pipeline, so to speak, and so.
Yeah, we have a contract to bring the gas here. That I can tell you, it runs 28 cents a decatherm, and they're going to bring it to us for 16 cents. So we'll leave that guaranteed 28 cents for us, freed up for us, if we have to burn more than what we plan to burn, and then we'll go ahead and purchase the 16 cents. It just actually works out better for us financially.
So Gary, just to confirm, is there a range you'd like us to state in a motion?
Well, I think if within 5 cents, either way, still a heck of a deal.
So within 5 cents of
to
What's
20.
the amount?
Well, we can't.
Within 5 cents of
we
the
are in
market rate.
negotiations with.
We are negotiating. We don't really want to let them know what our.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Michelle, sounds like you're on.
But
a
we
roll.
don't have any other meetings is a problem too, see, until December 7th. And so we don't want to miss out on this opportunity. So if we can have that little bit of discretion, you know, it would help us in that. We don't want to tell them what our max is because they might go to their max. But, you know, we'll be okay.
All right.
Guarantee you.
Motion to approve purchase contract to BP for January 2024 through June 2024 within 5-cent range, high range of the current negotiating price.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
I think you'll
Motion
be
carries.
tickled to see the long-range programs. You see these costs are actually going down in some of the cases, and the opportunity to use some local solar and a big project we'll bring back to you soon. But I think it's really we're going in the right direction as far as stabilizing our costs for the future. So.
That sounds pretty good, Gary, when you say costs are going down. Could you say it again?
Well, costs will go up, though, sometime. I'm not sure when that is, all right? And we're locking ourselves in for a few years, so you should have some stability, you know, for the foreseeable future. Okay, let's go back to report from the Planning Commission.
Okay.
This is a report from the Planning Commission from November 14th, 2 days ago. First item is public hearing to be advertised for December the 7th. And there's actually 3 items. First one, consider zone change from R110 to planned development residential on approximately 12 acres to accommodate 19 dwelling units. Project is generally located between Riverside Drive and a Virgin River, south of the current terminus of 2450 East Street, and it's called Red Hawk. Item B, consider a zone change from open space to C2 highway commercial zoning on approximately 7.2 acres. On 2 parcels, the owners are Mr. Christensen, Mr. Covey, representative is Mr. Kent Provostgard. Property is located along the east side of the freeway, and it's north of the existing electrical substation. And the final item, item C, consider a zone change amendment in the planned development residential zone to develop 194 unit single-family development in the Desert Canyons project area on approximately 28 acres called Desert Bluff at Desert Canyons. And this is located approximately 900 feet east of the intersection Desert Canyons Parkway and Rim Runner Drive along Desert Canyons Parkway. So those are the 3 items, Council, to be read in for the 7th.
Motion to,
Set the
I'm jumping the gun. Motion to advertise the public hearings for December 7th, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion?
Just, Ray, those people that live out in that area, they will receive notices, so there'll be no question as.
On all of these, they're all
presented itself.
public hearings.
I know it's sometimes just courtesy notices that we have, but they need to know.
Within a 500-foot radius, these are all zone changes, zone change amendments. They'll be sent out.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
That's Pearl Harbor Day.
It sure is.
2
You
days
better remember.
before Roddy's birthday, too.
Really?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Next item on the Planning Commission report is item 2, Hillside Permit. Consider a request for Hillside Development Permit, allow development of an extension of Hidden Valley Drive down in the Ivory Homes Master Plan area. So this shows a vicinity map. Here for reference is Brigham Road. Here's the freeway. This yellow highlighted area is where they would like to extend the road, Hidden Valley Drive. And it's superimposed over an aerial here where you can see a little bit better. And this would be the area. This is just showing a close-up. In the future, they'd like to have 3 developed parcels here, one for a future church site, residential, and possibly a school site here. And then just for reference, Bear Claw Poppy Reserve is the property right behind it. Zoning's planned development residential, general plans medium density residential. From Google Map Street View, you can see where the road terminates right now. Most of you have probably been out there familiar with it. This is where the road would extend out. Again, the conceptual planning in the future for it. So tonight, this is a hillside permit request. If you follow the arrow on the screen, this is where the road would go, and I've kind of highlighted this area. If you look at the slope, you have areas that are over 30%, 40%, and you can see where it kind of just juts out into that affected part of the road. The permit is for this area here. Plan and profile, grading plan is submitted the application. Hillside Board's looked at that carefully, and staff. A little hard to see at the scale on the screen there. These were some photos taken when the Hillside Board went out on November 1st. This I just drew to kind of show the property line. Again, the Bear Claw poppies on the other side. And this is the Hidden Valley side. They would not be going or disturbing that. This is just the board out, walking the site, looking at it. It wasn't staked at the time, and the Hillside Board recommends approval, but they wanted to have the applicants come back and stake the property and have staff go out and walk the site, and that occurred. And this is November 7th, a few days later. Basically, to kind of summarize, this little hill here, they were requesting that that would come out, and then they would daylight here and cut down, and then the road would be approximately this area. This is not the scale, but just kind of show you what the intent is. There were a lot of stakes put out there, and I just tried to show top back a curve, approximate area, and where the daylight is. And some of them go quite a distance. 32 feet was the highest cut I saw, and then this is showing daylighting at 1:1. And then this is looking back towards residential development and just kind of showing where those cuts are. The Hillside Board and staff talked about it, and when the Hillside Board first was presented this project and they looked at the grading plans, there were a lot of retaining walls that are incorporated into the design, and the board encouraged the applicants to remove those, to move the right-of-way slightly, and to incorporate a swale. And the geotechnical reports encouraged they could either go 1:1 or 1/2:1, and they felt that the soil would be stable enough, and they thought that would be more aesthetically pleasing and not have them out there. So that's what this project entails. Again, the Planning Commission does recommend approval. I'd like to read on the last page of the report, page 3, under Planning Commission. The Planning Commission recommends the City Council approve the permit with the conditions and comments as follows. Excuse me. The hillside permit is approved by the City Council subject to the applicant's redesign of the roadway, which does not require the use of installing and coloring retaining walls, and that's happened. That the right-of-way limits shall be staked on a site, that's happened. That the developer will follow the geotechnical recommendations to install a swale and drainage system in an area at least 10 feet wide, and that's been done, and staff's worked with them and seen that. Be it known that the Hillside Review Board, Planning Commission, City Council find that the small isolated mounds, hills, and ravines can be removed as requested and that they're considered to be insignificant. Note that the large hill directly behind cannot be removed and shall be mitigated to comply with the hillside ordinance, and that's anticipated to be done. Applicant has provided staff revised plans as a result of field staking and a site inspection by staff. So that concludes the comments from Planning Commission, Hillside Board, and some of staff's.
So that the concerns that were expressed by the Hillside Board at that time, you brought that area in from, let's say, from the freeway side east. It's been brought in so that we have our drainage concerns, and it's going to be a steeper slope, but still not require a retaining wall, and the aesthetics will be protected.
Correct. This hill they'd like to take out. This one that you're talking about would remain. They'll daylight here, and they felt that this would be stable enough, and then you'd put approximately 10-foot swale in here and then have the road start. And so, you know, as they presented the first time the hillside, when you were there were changes that were made that were important and significant.
Thank you.
Ray, that was kind of along the lines of my only questions too. Or, you know, I guess as long as we are sure in terms of the slope, the drainage, I just would love to not see, you know, soil washing onto the road, you know, as we have happen in other situations. So as long as the staff is comfortable with that, I do agree it would look better as long as we're comfortable. So I assume we are.
I think we're comfortable.
Wes, John? Okay.
Well, there'll be that swale in there anyway.
Exactly. As long as it's sufficient, which it sounds like it is. Well, yeah, that's always the thing, huh? I think we expected this would come at some point, but it's just going through the process here. Any other questions for Ray, council? Seems like a good approach.
Mayor, I guess maybe if I could see can you pull the map up, show what happens to the west end of this road? Just trying to figure out where, you show, I know where it stops.
Yeah.
And then it goes west, but, okay, so so from that property where it ends on the west, right, who owns the property to the west of that? Where's the school site?
School would
Right
be
there?
right here.
So between that road they're going to build at the end of that going west, how does it tie into anywhere west?
Well, the master plan shows.
Going south, north and south, but that's going through Bear Paw there. Along I-15. Yeah.
And is there some BLM land in there that?
Well, that's where the Bear Paw is at,
Right.
and it's going to be
That's
tough to
so-
get through
And
that.
that's a big area than what you're, okay.
It's going to be a long dead-end road for a long time until we can figure out how to ultimately connect that road, what is it, by where all the commercial is, Brigham Road, to the southern, or down to, not called that anymore, down to Desert Color, whatever you want to call it, on that exit 2. Because getting it up there and getting through some of that area there, you've got some small parcels of property owned by the Native Americans and then some other people, and so going to be interesting.
That'll go all the way down almost at, what is that? How do you pronounce that again? The Streliga, Joe? Stragler, something like it? So, yeah.
That's where it ends up hooking into to the south. Then it hooks into Brigham Road on the north, and it's just getting between those with the BLM and other property owners. But eventually, it'd be great to hook it all up. We just get you off another access.
So it looks like that's school property. It's about 5 acres, probably an elementary school.
Yeah, 4 to 5 acres.
Yep.
8.
All right.
This was all Sittler land at one time, and they sold it to
Ivory.
You ready for a motion, Mayor? I make
Yes,
a
sir.
motion that we approve the hillside development permit to allow for the development of an extension of the Hidden Valley Drive in the Ivory Homes Master Plan area.
Second.
Motion by Ed with a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Final plats.
Okay, item 3A from the Planning Commission report is a request to consider approval of a 13-lot residential subdivision final plat called Aspen Estates Phase 5. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located on the west side of 3210 East, known as R110. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff, and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. If you look on your vicinity map, here's 3210, here's 3000. It's just east of what we call the Segmiller property, where they have the one house there. It's just east of that property.
Questions, council?
Jimmy, that's our 110 area.
Yeah. Motion to approve. Final plat for Aspen Estates Phase 5.
Second.
Never thought you'd be saying that, huh, Jimmy?
Yeah.
So excited for an R110. Motion by Jimmy, second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
He'll
Now, the
approve
next four are all phases of the same subdivision. You want me to just do them as one? Or how you want to do it?
They're on separately, so let's do them separately.
Okay, you want me to do them separately?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got a vicinity map you can show all of them at once, just so everybody understands where they're at.
They are, so if we just did Aspen Estates right there. I'll go back. Okay, this one's a little bigger. So this is where Aspen Estates was. The next four are right here.
And where's the eastern boundary of the city?
Over here.
And where's Lida?
Who?
Lida's property, feed yard.
Atkins is up here. Atkins is up here. Yeah, so this is 3,000 east right here. Again, they're just east of that signal.
How much property is left before we butt up to the feed yard, just generally speaking?
Yeah, there's still quite a ways. Atkins have held on to some of their property and aren't willing to sell it yet.
I know that we're getting close to that.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
Yeah.
When they build.
Somebody was going to say that. You beat us to the punch.
He knows this.
You have to know this crap.
Yeah.
Sorry, Wes, I just wanted to confuse you a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, item 3B is a request to consider approval of a 12-lot residential subdivision final plat called Rosewood Estates Phase 1. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located on the east side of 3210 East at approximately 2970 South. Zone is R18. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat.
So density's going up.
Yeah, as you go east, the zones go more to the R18 zone, yeah.
If there's no questions, I will make a motion.
Go for
that
it.
We approve Rosewood Estates Phase 1, final plat.
Second.
Motion by Joe, second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 3C is a request to consider approval of a 12-lot residential subdivision final plat called Rosewood Estates Phase 2. Representative is Development Solutions. Property again is located on 3210 East at approximately 3010 South. Zone is R18. All aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. Again, there's Aspen. The one you just approved is there, and this one's just south of it.
Motion to approve Rosewood Estates Phase 2.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 3D is a request to consider approval of a 13-lot residential subdivision final plat called Rosewood Estates Phase 3. Represented is Development Solutions. Property is located on the east side of 3210 East at about 3050 South. Zone is R18. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. And again, this one is just south of the last one that you just approved. Directly south.
Ready for a motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. That's funny. Motion by Michelle, second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 3E from the Planning Commission report is a request to consider approval of a 15-lot residential subdivision final plat called Rosewood Estates Phase 4. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located on the east side of 3300 East Street and 3050 South. Zone is R18. All aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of preliminary plat. And then this one is just east of that last one that we just did.
Questions?
Motion to approve Rosewood Estates Phase 4.
I'll second that.
You have a motion by Michelle and a surprise second motion by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously.
So Wes,
Did you own stock in that, Michelle, or anything?
You
No.
just threw out, we approved over 50 additional lots. We got enough schools out there for these kids to get to safely?
No, the school district's looking at purchasing property out in this area pretty adjacent to these subdivisions we just looked at.
Thank you.
Yep, I know that they watch this closely, so more schools coming.
Okay, item 4A from the Planning Commission request is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 42-lot residential subdivision called Desert Crossing, size located between Rim Runner Drive and Broken Mesa Drive in the Desert Canyons development. Property is 14.35 acres, 10.95 is in an R110 zone, 3.4 is in a PD8. The density in the R110 is 3.2. The density in the PD8 is 2.06. Let's see, general plan is low density residential, applicant is Development Solutions Group. Developer is requesting, so here's the zone line. This side, it comes up like this and then down. This portion is R110, this portion is zone PD8. Developer is requesting lot size averaging on the R110 portion, with 13 of the lots being less than 10,000 square feet and the smallest being 7,600 square feet. This is also being left as open space, and the agreement, prior to the final plat recording, the agreement is that they'll either put this in an HOA, work out, they'd really like to give it to the city, and Parks is looking at it to take it, because this has been always planned as a 4-acre park right here, and they felt like this would be a good trail that would run from Desert Ridge all the way down through here, and then it would provide access to that park. So we haven't been able to totally work this out yet, but so before the final plat records, it'll either go to the city, be put in an HOA, or if nothing can be worked out, then we would extend the property lines to that zone line on these lots here.
So, even if you did that though, because doesn't this zone change between where that line goes down?
Yeah, right through there.
You'd have to add them to both the ones on the left and
Right, so if it all fell apart, then the other option would be to extend the property lines to that zone line.
So the 4-acre park is the smallest.
It is, it's a neighborhood park, and it's always been planned right here, just to work out the details now. Also, these lots right here would be walkout basements as they drop off to the Arizona border fairly quickly.
Wow. My backyard's Arizona.
Yeah,
Literally.
very cool. And then these lots, even though they're located in that PD, their proposal is to build them as R110 zoning, so they would meet the setbacks and requirements of an R110 zone, so that they would match what's being built over here.
Mayor, we have a development agreement on that property out there that has master planned open space, has master planned the parks, and they'd like to amend that, but I don't know where we're at with that. But still, there has been a community park that's designated out there. I think it's 10 acres, and then there's some other neighborhood parks that they've all agreed on. So, as part of the development agreement, they're having to deed those to us, which is better than buying them. So, anyway, I think their parks people have been really involved with the open space areas out there and trying to space those parks, where the population's at. Right. We have it now?
So it's
Oh,
ours.
great.
Good. That's a good-sized park. That's a community park, right?
Yep. It's on the other side of the
Highway
southern
road
corridor,
property.
but it's along the Fort Pierce up on the hill that you can develop it. It's a pretty good piece.
Very good. Ed?
Just a comment, Mayor, and ask you a question. We prepare our 5 or 10-year plan for the city, we show some of these areas like the future parks and fire stations, so we have people buying out there have an idea of what's going to be where they're purchasing their property.
Yep, we should list those.
Yes.
And we have done that, so we ought to do that in the future. Bump them up, huh?
Yep, thank
the
you.
next few years. Good idea. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, be ready for a motion on this to approve this preliminary plat.
Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve the preliminary plat, Desert Hills Crossing located between Rim Runner Drive and Broken Mesa Drive in the Desert Canyons development.
I have a motion by Ed and a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
You notice, Jimmy, I did the 10,000.
Good job.
You have 10,000.
I love it.
I guess if that concludes Planning Commission report, then we'll go to G. This is a request from a property owner out in the South Bloomington Hills area. For some reason, when TerraCore developed Bloomington Hills, in order to sell some of those lots for more money, they called them golf course frontage lots. So they just built great big open areas that went all the way from the golf course back to the lots, even though they don't front the golf course. This is one of those areas that is just a no man's land. We've got several encroachments right next to these folks, but these folks came in and wanted to buy that property you can see in the exhibit and increase their lot size, put a fence on it, and use the property. We've run it through the staff here, and nobody can see any issues with it. It's not being used for anything else. So similar to what we've done out in Bloomington Hills over the years, allowed property owners to purchase property that's surplus to the city. We charge $1.50 a square foot. That's what we've done.
Is that all that they wanted to buy, or all
Yeah.
that we would?
Well, we wouldn't sell them anymore because the people across the
They have a
thing
right.
should have a right to come in
Yeah.
and buy what's adjacent to them.
That's what I was curious about. Any questions on that, council? Nice that they would come to us.
Yeah. They're the new owners. Orson Brown used to own the property.
Who did?
You know, Orson
Oh,
Brown, if you know him.
That's pretty standard, $150 per square foot.
yep.
Yep.
For surplus. Ready for a motion unless you have questions, council.
Motion to approve the request to purchase surplus property located near 2991 South Butternut Circle in the amount of $1.50 a square foot.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
That's all I have, Mayor. I don't have any items unless Sean does for the closed
No
session.
closed
I don't have
session.
anything.
Good. Let's see. Let's go to minutes first. And Christina's been really busy doing minutes.
Wow. how's that?
So good job. There are how many?
Mayor, I was in attendance at all of these, and I've read through them as we sat here, so I'd be happy to make a motion to approve these minutes and thank Christina for her great work. And I don't see any changes, just in
I
what
found several errors in them, and I corrected them for her. So no, she's not exactly perfect. I think I
she's-
found one.
Yeah, she's perfect. For February 16th, 2017, September 12th, 2017, September 21st, September 28th, October 5th, October 12th, October 19th, October 26th, November 2nd, and November 9th, 2017, inclusive.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the meetings of the dates mentioned by Betty Ariel. Any second?
Second.
Second by Jimmy. Any discussion?
Well, and Mayor, the public can go online to get these a lot quicker if they have an interest in them. They can have them available to them.
Absolutely. All right then, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, one thing I need to not forget to mention this time, just in terms of reports. Very briefly, some of you may remember Dr. Craig Booth mentioned that he would like to donate a flagpole, Betty, to put at the top of Main Street.
Main Street.
Right by the tank we have there. He would like to donate, a 70-foot tall flagpole. 70 feet tall. He was thinking 50, and then he said 70 would be better. And so I just needed to know, because this would be the cities, we would need to I guess, arranged to install it. I don't know if he was planning to do that, Gary, or not, but we need power to light it. And right, we would have to pay to replace the flags like we do at our other buildings. So I just wanted to make sure before we proceed, because we'll need to do a CUP for this because it exceeds the allowable height, as you know, and I guess, do we give ourselves a building permit? Anyway, we would be working through that with him, but he would like to order it. I just wanted to make sure before we do that we start the process and that you're comfortable with that commitment.
With the flag, and if it's going to be lighted,
it would be.
That means it would almost be flying 24/7, except
would
for conditions and times it would not. Okay.
Is his motivation just to be patriotic?
Yes.
So it'll have an American flag on it then?
Yes. Well, it could be.
You never know.
Flag?
That's true.
It's true.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
never know.
exactly.
It's probably going to be a Dixie Rebel flag.
Well, it would be up to us, I guess. So.
Well, there's nothing to restrict other flags, but this is a city-owned. Will be a city-owned, so
he would be donating
we're
it
not
to the
gonna be
city,
flying.
and he told me it was okay to announce that.
Do you
so.
need a motion?
We don't. We're just basically seeking your approval to say proceed, and so we'll have staff go through the process, right, Gary, in terms of. Right by the water tank.
Well, I drive by it. It's my end of town.
Right. So yeah, you'll see this.
Yeah. I think that is a very nice thing for him
Kinda
to
fun.
do, and I think we should thank him very much for it.
Absolutely, we want to do that. I believe, Gary, that he was going to go through, I want to say it was Rainbow, and so maybe they would do the drawings. So I can contact Craig if you want, and then we'll just find out who and have them work with our staff. Who should we have in contact? Okay. Okay. Very good. Well, we'll make sure it's correct according to flag etiquette. Same with the lighting. We'll make sure it's correct. We've already had Lori, as Gary. Yep. So that we know we can do. Yes, I think he would like to get it going quickly so we can maybe not have it up that quickly, but at least have it purchased. Any other reports? I know there have been a few committee meetings, but and we're going to have, I know, a wonderful Ibigawa presentation on December 7th. Betty, I heard the trip was wonderful, other than the 42 or 43-hour return.
That was wonderful too.
You all had a nice spin on it. So
let's see, there is going to be on the 7th a solstice event at the the museum, art museum, that you won't want to miss. And evidently, if you did miss the October pumpkin event, it was a 2-day event, and they had hundreds of people come. It was such a success that they're going to do it every year.
Good.
They had music and pumpkins and everything. It was just great. But this solstice event is there will be luminaries around the entire property, even in the trees, even in the sky. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, it will be fabulous. They're going to have, again, entertainment. So the museum's really caught on how to do an event. They've done the 20 for the 20th years of the museum, and some of them have been outstanding. So they're going to pick those great outstanding events and reproduce them every year.
is that on the 7th, did you say, of December?
I think it is.
So it's a Thursday night, but we'll see what time it is.
So the city's provided that you added electricity in that particular area to accommodate all of them. We see the changes taking place.
Reminds me, of course, Thanksgiving next week. So if you're okay, we won't have a city council meeting next Thursday because Thanksgiving falls on Thursday this year.
Okay, this is the 7th of December, so it's also on Pearl Harbor Day, but it is a city council night, and it's from 5:30 to 6:30, so darn it.
So we probably won't be able to be there, but we'll
Just let
be
you know
there in
about
spirit.
it.
Yeah, we'll be there in spirit, Jimmy.
Okay.
December 7th, we're going to have a presentation from Kibagawa.
Yeah.
It shows you how the world
Changed a little bit. Also, Monday the 27th, is that right, of November, is the town square. You should have received information on this, kind of the lighting of our town square and downtown Christmas lights. And our staff, as usual, they just continue to do a fantastic job putting all those lights up that I wouldn't want to do. Personally, that would just be really hard, painstaking efforts, but it's going to be so exciting. And again, more music from the people in the community, choirs and individuals. So no one asked me, so unless...
Everyone's going to sing "Here Comes Santa, Joe."
Right.
So brush
Here comes
up.
Santa Joe.
You will be up there because you will count down the lighting when the lights go on, and then we'll all sing "Here Comes Santa," but with everyone.
We'll sing
with everyone.
together.
Yeah.
That's on the Friday night after Thanksgiving at 5:30 p.m. if you care to go to that. It's always beautiful, but I have to say Town Square is more thrilling to me. So lots of, yeah, it is. Yeah, it was cold last year. Sean, did you have something that looked like you might have?
This is for the city manager's benefit. I just received a text from Yesco saying they will be turning down the billboard at Sunset and Bluff. Right now, that faces, unfortunately, diagonal. And when that went in, we had to obviously allow that because of the reconfiguration of the roadway, the state law, and it was a state highway. So they did have to move it out of the way and a little higher to be visible. But unfortunately, and it was not intended, it faces diagonal. That
Directly.
first night I drove down there, I thought I will hear it from the city manager the next day. But it took him about 3 days before he mentioned it. So. But I talked to Yesco as well, and they are reconfiguring the head of that billboard, of that tri-face billboard, to have it face more along Bluff Street and Sunset as it was intended. And it's going to take them a little bit to have that designed and reconstructed, but they are going to be doing that. And they've been responsive on the lighting issue, and they are donating a new reader board with that at
the Boulevard and
Bluff. That is quite a bit better than the old billboard, the old reader board we have there. That base right there where the reader board is will not. That'll
The
stay.
fountain is coming out. Yeah.
Right.
That was part of the deal we struck with UDOT.
So we appreciate them for being responsive on that, and they're trying to take care of that issue.
Jimmy had someone, I think, yeah. Okay, so just again for the record, no meeting next week or the next week. So we will not be meeting until December 7th. And if all goes well, that may be our last meeting of the year. It may be we have to call a special meeting if we have something we need to take care of. But otherwise, happy Thanksgiving, yeah. And we'll see you on December 7th if we don't see you before one of these events. Need a motion to adjourn if you're ready.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by Jimmy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ed, did you have something? We are adjourned, but Ed?